and welcome back to the Championship Lowdown. Today I will be the host. I am Tom, and I'm joined by Chris to talk through the Championship weekend. How are you doing, Chris?
Yeah, good. A really exciting weekend of action with some really interesting consequences for a lot of teams.
Absolutely. A lot of goals as we start to get towards spring and the sharp end of the season. And talking of consequences, we are recording this just after the final whistle in the Steel City derby, and the consequence of which was the relegation, the inevitable relegation of Sheffield Wednesday. Talk me through a little bit. We talk about the game a little bit, but more, I guess, your thoughts on Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that was coming all season. And I think it's the one thing they would not have wanted was for the fact that it would have been Sheffield United to do it and put the nail in the coffin. But in terms of rivalries going, I don't think it's something Sheffield United fans should be celebrating too much either. You know, we're all for a bit of friendly rivalries and things like that and local bragging rights and everything like that. But no one wants to see the sort of situation that Sheffield Wednesday's been in this season for any club.
Yeah, it's sort of Simpsons meme, isn't it? Stop, he's already dead. It's just not very it's not fair when Wednesday have had to go through everything they've had to go through for it to happen at Bramall Lane is just an insult to injury, which didn't really need to occur, but it did. An inevitable victory for United. Calvin Phillips's bizarre career goes on with his red card in the Steel City derby, dropping down to the Championship and getting himself sent off, allowing Wednesday back into the game. But it was still a pretty comfortable afternoon for Sheffield United.
Yeah, it's football, just with it being Sheffield United to relegate them, and not only to relegate them, it's the earliest a team's been relegated in Football League history as well. It just feels like someone's writing some kind of script and just adding so much drama to the game. And yeah, it's a sick joke, somewhat for a Sheffield Wednesday fan, but it's been Sheffield United.
I know. I feel like it wasn't me that did this, but I feel like a Peterborough United fan has cursed Wednesday for their glorious playoff victory. They now have to endure this. But yeah, they are down. Unfortunately, fingers crossed they get the situation off the field sorted as soon as possible as well, because it's a massive club that does not deserve this. But Sheffield United get the win, and they move on to look up the table. And we can now talk about up the table a little bit more, because Ipswich went to Wrexham for the second time in a week, and they lost for the second time in a week, albeit they put out a much stronger side in this particular game. Hell of a lot of goals in this one.
You definitely wouldn't have called this scoreline after seeing that FA Cup fixture go the way that one went. I actually was thinking this would be a draw, looking at the fixture list. I was thinking this would be a draw. You know, Wrexham going strong at the moment, creeping up, crept into the playoff places with that win. Birmingham just looming over them. That sort of story starting up again a bit with the playoff place now between Wrexham and Birmingham. But it's a massive statement, you know. An Ipswich side we all expected to sort of walk promotion from this division when they went down. Put up such a fight in the Premier League to stay up and couldn't quite get the job done. And we all expected them to go down, I think, but they still exceeded expectations with the way they fought to stay in the Premier League. So I'll go out on a limb here. I don't think this will be the year for Ipswich to go up at all. I don't see... But there's a lot of teams in that playoff places at the moment that I'm looking at and thinking none of them have it in them for a playoff sort of run-in. I don't fancy anyone. The sort of teams that are there I don't like the look of over 2 legs in a semi-final.
And I wonder, because looking at this game, I think Ipswich, I mean, they scored some really lovely goals through Azon and Kipre in particular. It's just the defending that was really poor. I thought Walton was at fault for at least one of the goals. Probably for Thomason's as well. You wonder if he could have done a bit better at the near post as well. Dara O'Shea getting caught out of the back. And these are players that shouldn't be making these kind of mistakes at this point in the season. And then going forward, they're still pretty excellent. Generally, they've not really had a problem in that regard. And Anis Mehmeti gets his first for Ipswich here. But it's just at the back, they just keep letting things slide in a way that you can't if you want the autos. Whereas Wrexham looked very much back to their kind of dominant self in terms of the way that they did in the National League and League Two and League One at home, where they just came out and played, created chances, scored loads of goals.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a blow for Ipswich as well, with Middlesbrough having dropped points that they've not really responded well to the Coventry loss. I think most people expected them to sort of come out after Coventry and sort of take their aggression out on Oxford at the weekend, but that's not come to fruition either. So in terms of an actual playoff challenge, like I say about Ipswich, though, I think being a side that have already been promoted from the Championship and played in the Premier League, that could be what sees them through the playoff, with what I said about not fancying anyone over 2 legs. So that could be experience that benefits them. But again, I just don't think it's going to be their year. And I could potentially see a battle between Ipswich and Sheffield United next season.
And yeah, whoever ends up coming down as well. But I think looking at from the Wrexham side, you've just got a little sense of, maybe destiny is the wrong word to use, but that momentum is really behind them, especially with Kiefer Moore back in the team and back on song. It is just such a wonderful focal point to have for any team. And then you've just got just an insane amount of talent that can just rotate around him. That's incredible. And it was a great finish from him for the first as well. So Wrexham looking very, very strong as ever. And yeah, Ipswich really need to sort out what's going on at the back, because their defenders are not pulling their weight in the way that their attackers are.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that about defenders as well, because you look at both sides. Wrexham have had 5 big chances in that game with an XG of 2.4. And meanwhile, Ipswich have had 1 big chance with an XG of 0.95 total of the game. But 1 big chance and scoring 3 goals is... I think you're raising question marks about both teams coming out of this fixture.
But yeah. I think potentially the Ipswich goals were... I mean, I'd criticise the defence, but Kipre, wonderful strike. So the talent is there to score lovely goals. And all 3 goals, even the first goal, came from a lovely bit of play from Jack Clark. So, yeah, the talent is there, but there just does not seem to be a solidity at the back, and they can't cut those mistakes out. And I guess talking about a lack of solidity at the back, it's more pain for West Brom, as Coventry cap a very, very good week. After their wonderful victory on Monday night, they come into this Midlands rivalry game, potentially.
Yeah, somewhat of a rivalry.
Yeah, it's not something that has a name, I don't think, but yeah, they must have enjoyed that, going to West Brom winning 2-0.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's perfect to say about West Brom at the moment. Just, it's an absolute disaster there at the moment. And I think if there's one team in the league you could probably say is having a tougher time with Sheffield Wednesday, maybe it's them.
It's just so punishing, because they're down within 5 minutes, and then not too long after that, about half an hour or so, Rodoni scores just a beautiful goal, just an absolutely brilliant goal. and West Brom huffed and puffed. Like, they gave it a real go, but they never managed to create anything, that good. If we take that, big chances, they created 0 big chances, right? And that they had the majority of possession. Game state plays a part in that, but they just never really were able to cut through Coventry at all.
Yeah, I think that goes to show the sort of testament to this Coventry side as well, who have endured the tough run they've been on, where the question marks have been raised, will they, won't they, sort of thing, of this promotion charge, where it started to look a little like, last time we recorded, we were both suggesting that they might not even finish in the automatic promotion spots with the way everyone was playing around them. But they had their big test against Middlesbrough. They passed it perfectly. And I think that was sort of a wake-up call. You look at, for instance, the game against Middlesbrough, where Middlesbrough pulled one back to make it 2-1, and 19 seconds later, the other end of the pitch, Coventry are getting a penalty, creating chances, responding almost immediately when they need to respond. So there's praise for this Coventry team, but there's still, again, question marks which will haunt them if they go up.
Yeah, and I think last time we spoke as well, I think we were saying that they were getting cut through too easily through the middle. You could play through Coventry, and they were getting caught out in that regard. And these 2 results come off the back of Frank Onyeka signing. He made his debut against Middlesbrough, and then played again here. In fact, ostensibly created the opening goal here by winning the ball back in midfield, and a lovely pass from Van Eyck. But that solidity now in the middle of the park, alongside the ball playing of Matt Grimes, they now have a far more complete team. They have that steel in the middle. That means that they are not going to get run through, certainly as much. And if they are harder to play against, but still create good chances, that is going to be probably enough to keep you in the autos when the likes of Ipswich are struggling sometimes to show consistency.
Yeah, and they've got some real chances to pick up points coming up for them as well. Charlton at home for West Brom is a chance to pick up 3 points at home. I think they can they can open up some breathing room in terms of relegation with Oxford after that. So there's some real big fixtures coming up for this side I think the Oxford game is going to determine how their season ends, I think.
Yeah, it's a massive game down there. Absolutely massive game down there. And who knows? We'll see how long Mr. Ramsey lasts moving forward. But someone who will not be replacing Eric Ramsey, no matter what happens, is Gary Rowett, who is now in at Leicester, getting them a 2-2 draw away at a Stoke side who have been pretty listless of late. A lot of injuries, but fans calling out some pretty terrible football. At least in the first half, they were treated to much better sight, but didn't last forever as Gary Rowett got Leicester a result at last.
Yeah, I actually missed the equaliser for Stoke, to be honest with you. I only just noticed this morning it finished a draw. Yeah, and again, we've just mentioned Oxford, and that could be a decision that comes back to haunt Oxford, possibly, if Gary Rowett can guide Leicester to safety. And it's a pretty big task for this team. We've spoke about them and spoke about the way they've performed on the pitch. But I think they showed yesterday exactly what we were saying last time as well, that they've got the players. They just need someone to get them performing. And in terms of getting you performing for a championship relegation fight, I think Gary Rowett is a really solid choice for that. The big concern comes for this is Leicester. We know what Leicester are going to be targeting. We know they're not going to expect to be in that relegation fight next season. They're going to want to be up there, pushing the playoffs, possibly the automatics. They're going to want to be competing for promotion next season. Is Gary Rowett really the man to be taking you on a promotion charge?
Well, you'd imagine not. I mean, obviously he got Millwall into the playoffs, or well, actually it was just short of the playoffs, wasn't it? A couple of times, but I think that's why the contract is only until the end of the season, because Leicester have woken up to what's going on, especially in the wake of the points deduction. They are in real trouble. It looks at the moment, and who knows, Blackburn could be dragged back into it. They've had sort of a new manager bounce of their own, but it looks at the moment like one of Leicester and West Brom are in real trouble in terms of looking at League One football next year. And Gary Rowett is a very good way of guaranteeing, or as close to a way of guaranteeing from a managerial appointment, that that's not going to happen. We know that Leicester have the players, and in this one, the big name really was Mikasa, who, watching the highlights back this morning, just looked unbelievable. Just looked like another Man City academy product that is absolutely going to play for England. He looked unbelievable. So just add that to the list of players that they just have lying around. But they've got to cut out some of the mistakes. And like you said about the equaliser at the end there, Ben Wilmot is just drifting in at the back stick completely unmarked from a cross. And you're just thinking, that is an avoidable goal. That is an entirely avoidable goal, by just having someone marking at the back post, or Mavididi actually tracking back. So it's, I think, a good appointment, and I think it's one that strengthens their ability to stay up, for sure.
Yeah, I think in terms of the two sides being in trouble, Leicester and West Brom, I've spoken in the past about relegation not always being a negative thing. You look at the likes of West Ham, who came down to this division and immediately went back up, because it sort of gave them the wake-up call. I think in terms of that, West Brom are exactly the same. I think it would be massively damaging for Leicester to go down to League One. But in terms of West Brom, with how long they've been in the Championship, the way they've always seemed to fall short of expectations, and I also think maybe they place a bit too much expectation on themselves in terms of where they're going to finish at the end of the season sometimes. But I think for West Brom, a drop to League One wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. I think it would be the wake-up call they needed, and, they could come back to the Championship with a sort of fresh mindset. Not to mention that you have Eric Ramsey, if the club were to say keep him on, if they were relegated. He's a young manager, and this is the thing with young managers. You just can't expect the results immediately.
Yeah, and it's almost the flip of Leicester appointing Gary Rowett and going, we're in trouble, we need someone. It's almost as if West Brom didn't think they were in that much trouble, and appointed someone for, okay, we'll get some results, it'll be up and down, but this is an appointment for the future. Whereas really, I think they were in more trouble than they realised. And I agree. For Leicester, you look at their financial situation, it would be a disaster to go down. For West Brom, it's never good for a club to go down. For West Brom, it would be less of a disaster for sure. And just a quick word on Stoke. Not a great run of form of late. They are starting to get some players back from injury, but it's been a tough, pretty boring go for Stoke of late.
Yeah, and they're a side, this is a side who, earlier in the season, we were talking about them being up there with Coventry and Middlesbrough, and the fact that they were giving the two of them a real go for those automatic spots early on in the season. And I think it goes to show what we say a lot of the time, but when the bubble bursts in football, it really does burst.
Yeah, no league win for Stoke since the 4th of January. So it is tough times. Luckily, they did bank those points earlier in the season, because otherwise we could be talking about them in a very different way. But we're not anywhere particularly close to that yet. Looking down, keep looking down at the bottom of the table, but it is good news this time for Portsmouth as they won away from home against Millwall. I think the factor here really is the January transfer window for Portsmouth, where they went out, got Ibu Adams, who is covering a hell of a lot of ground in midfield. They got two wingers who can run with Josh Murphy out injured seemingly all the time. They look much better.
Yeah, and that's, well, back-to-back away wins for them as well. Real surprise, but again, I think it goes to show it's why I say, when I say about the teams in the playoffs not being what you'd expect over two legs, Millwall are a perfect example of that, who I think if they were to go through, well, it looks almost likely that they'll be finishing in a playoff spot at the moment. But in terms of who's in the playoffs at the moment, Millwall would probably be the first name I'd put who's definitely going out in the semi-finals. And I think this result is a showing of that.
I think the Millwall fans will be delighted to hear that. It's interesting because I think Millwall also did some good business in January, but just doesn't seem to quite have gelled yet in terms of someone like Tommy Watson, who didn't really play that well yesterday. Whereas Portsmouth, Millie Ali, Millie Ali and Ibu Adams are probably going toe to toe for best January signing in the Championship right now. Just giving Portsmouth genuine pace to be able to actually hit on the break, execute a little bit more of the game plan that Mousinho has. And when he's been complaining a little bit lately in the press around signings, and I think maybe this is what happens when you give him a couple of Championship ready players, he can deliver some really good results, and two massive results this week as well. Absolutely massive.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you've also got to look out for Millwall is the sort of lack of, I wouldn't say lack of goal scorers in the team, but when you look at their individual stats for players, only one player's hit double digits for goals and assists this season, and that's Femi Aziz, and that's just barely with 11. So whether it's something they should be looking at, I don't know. I mean, they've got a solid defence, but they're not scoring either too much. They've got a goal difference of 2 in the playoff places, while the teams around them, Ipswich are below them with a goal difference of 20, for instance.
Yeah, it's a bit stereotypical in a way, but Millwall are traditionally a more defensive team, and they had a tough day at the back. Usually, some of their better players, like Doughty, like Tristan Kramer, and the centre backs did not have the best of days, and usually they are very much built off that structure. Ivanovic has had a bit of a trickier season this year. Langstaff has been very useful. I think he got the assist here in this game as well. Lovely little layoff for Denore. But yeah, there's no one there that you'd hang your hat on for loads of goals necessarily. But again, Portsmouth have probably the most underperforming in front of goal striker in the whole EFL almost, in Colby Bishop, who's had a really tough time in front of goal. But if you can create enough chaos, you can score goals, and they managed to do that. Against Millwall, and then a similar scoreline and similar kind of game in a way with Hull QPR.
Yeah, and one thing I was just about to mention on that was, if I was going to back any other team in the playoffs at the moment who probably wouldn't make it past the semi-finals in terms of playoffs, it would be Hull, and another case for this sort of result at home. So be interesting to see Hull versus Millwall in the semi-finals with me making a prediction like that. But yeah, I think QPR are a very strange team, and we've spoke about them in the past of how strange they are. You never seem to know what QPR is going to show up. Sometimes you'll get that QPR that fell from the top of the table when Michael Beale left, it seems, and sometimes you'll seem to get that squad that made it to the Premier League with them.
It's a really interesting mix of players, and I think it was tough for them losing Burrell because I think he was such a big threat in behind and part of an incredible double act with Kone. But they're managing to find different ways of getting through games and getting goal scoring opportunities, including obviously scoring, essentially scoring from a corner here. It's gone down as a McNair own goal, but it very much looked like it was going straight in anyway. But tough one for Hull to take there. A pretty even game in terms of chances kind of created in a way. Hull do have a slightly higher XG there, but QPR just number one took their chances extremely well, and had an absolute screamer from the youngster Benny, who on first viewing I looked at him and he looked like he was some sort of 31-year-old Scandinavian kind of midfielder, but he's not. He's a 19-year-old academy product. So fair play. It was an incredible strike from him as well. Yeah, very strange team QPR, but they did a job on Hull effectively, and Hull, who've got, dare we say it, sometimes just a little bit lucky in terms of their shots going in the back of the net, got unlucky today or yesterday.
Yeah, and I think Julian Stefan's come out and said after as well that a calm mindset was sort of the key to getting that, and obviously that's what's key in football is keeping calm. But the way the whole team have composed themselves, Hull's not an easy place to go to. It's not an easy place to even pick up a point from a lot of the time. So to pick up 3 points is massive for a side who are so inconsistent as QPR.
Yeah, no, they did a real job to keep them out and then take advantage of the moments that they did get. A few other games for a quick sort of hit. We'll start with Norwich versus Birmingham. A big sort of 10 minutes for Birmingham, followed by almost complete domination from Norwich.
Yeah, and I mentioned before about they have such a poor record at Carrow Road as well. I think Norwich have won 12 there, and Blues have won 4. So that just sort of goes to show the old smash and grab sort of technique from Chris Davies' side, maybe well aware of that record. And I think, again, a calm mindset being key there. It's not another place that's not easy to go to. It's a very established Championship club. This is a club who've once established themselves as one of the most dominant sides in Championship history.
Mm-hmm.
So to sort of get pegged back the way they did and hold on to that lead is massive for this club. And currently looking like one of the more informed sides in the division, Birmingham. The only team unbeaten in their last 5 as well, and just sitting 2 points behind Wrexham, which we mentioned earlier, that sort of story developing again over a playoff spot now.
Absolutely, and yeah, they really took advantage of Norwich being quite poor for the opening sort of 15-20 minutes, scoring a couple of really nice goals from really good sort of back to front sort of sweeping moves, if you like. And I think you're seeing some of the financial firepower there. Vicente with the goal, Priest with the assist for the second. Just some really good stuff. And then they did what they don't usually do away from home, and that's hold out. I think it is meaningful from a Norwich perspective that Birmingham's keeper Beadle was effectively the man of the match, making a number of saves. Norwich could have helped themselves with a little bit better finishing. I think they fired the ball directly at him a couple of times. Lovely strike from McLean. But yeah, Norwich are a team who you do not want to play right now, and you'd probably be quite wary of going into next season, just because of the form that they are showing. They're still technically right in it, down the bottom of the table. They're only 6 points above Leicester, but it feels night and day, the feeling you get when you watch Norwich versus someone like Leicester. Norwich look like a team who should, if they'd had Philippe Clement all season, they'd be way higher.
Yeah, it's interesting because moving on, I mean, speaking of that end of the table, you've got Blackburn having picked up 3 points on Friday, the way that they did. Huge 3 points for Blackburn. They absolutely needed that.
Yeah, it was absolutely vital in what was, to be honest, a relatively poor game. I think it's fair to say it was a true sort of derby insofar as that no one really wanted to give anyone else much of an edge. Very kind of weird goal to win that. The ball just lumped up in the air by Cashin. But massive win for Blackburn, who've got a great bounce since O'Neill has come in, and a creditable point as well for Oxford, playing away at Middlesbrough.
Yeah, and again, not really much more to say on that either. We sort of glazed over it earlier with the other teams we spoke about, with the Ipswich fixture, with Middlesbrough having dropped points. It's just, if you needed a response, if you're Middlesbrough, to sort of show that you're a team going up. You're not a team winning the league, but you're a team going up. They've still got that gap, obviously, but they've obviously, Portsmouth have done them a favour as well.
No, for sure. And I think it'd be, I mean, Oxford did have a couple of good chances in this one, but Middlesbrough did what you'd expect. They dominated the ball. They dominated the chances created. They will be very frustrated to have not taken advantage of a game that they really should have taken advantage of. And then in the playoff picture as well, Derby took a little bit of a blow after a really, really good, solid all-round performance from Ed Stills, Watford.
Yeah. I think if this is another fixture that, if you looked at it, you'd probably think of a draw at first glance for this fixture. We've been full of praise for Derby in recent weeks, and we've spoken about the inconsistencies of Watford, but I think they're making that sort of area around the playoffs a bit of an interesting place to be. If you're the likes of Watford, Derby, Birmingham, even as far down as Southampton, really, it's getting a bit interesting in that sort of gap.
Yeah, and this was a massive game. They're now level on points, the both of them. And if you're, as rightly say, praising Derby quite a lot, you have to talk about Watford in a very, very similar kind of vein going forward, because if you look throughout the team yesterday, and then some of the players they can bring off the bench, like Bard, Dumbia, who scored, Chakmatadze, those all came off the bench. That's not even including the starters. So you have to take them pretty seriously if they can get a sort of a consistent run of performances. But that could be asking for a fair amount. And then you mentioned there Southampton, who again will probably be frustrated that they couldn't get a win against Charlton.
Yeah, you'd expect Southampton to sort of pick this one up, and they're the same as Ipswich this season. You just really have expected Southampton to have made this division look easy for them at the start of this season, and it's all just gone wrong, obviously.
Yeah, it's been very tough. I mean, they went on they seem to go on very streaky runs under Eckert. They're still in the middle of a pretty good one, unbeaten for quite a few games. Obviously, the insane game against Leicester last time out in the league. But yeah, they'll be frustrated after having just incredibly dominated this game to have not been able to put Charlton away and not put their former manager Nathan Jones away as well. But that is all of the games covered and all we have got time for this week. So thank you very much to everyone for listening, and we'll be back to preview next weekend.
Thank you very much.